Hello and welcome to Stampscaping 101. Hello Diana, how are you today? How are things going with the voice and everything? Hope all's well. Well, hope it's improving. I don't know, you're finding a good workaround for that. But anyways, the video today is going to be on photo stamping here. I've done this a ton of times and I've talked about it, but I haven't isolated the technique and kind of explained when and where to use certain types of photographs with certain types of scenes, okay? And I'm using the photographs as backgrounds, backdrops, foundations for scenes in different ways more and more these days. I find it to be pretty dynamic, and of course, for scenic stamping, it's kind of a natural fit to have this kind of endless resource of different types of, I don't know, scene settings, I guess, for us to utilize within our pieces. But some people have some different questions on how to utilize this type of imagery. What's the difference between some photographs with some really hard contrasts and whatnot, and kind of the more generic, very low contrast, more, I don't know, not abstract, but more of like just a varied low contrast background that's more accepting of different types of images. And that's the thing that I want to go into more than anything in this video today. I sent out a link to everyone on the email mailing list, and there was a ton of response to the Flickr gallery that has all my cloud photographs that I've taken. And I thought, I should probably get into that for those that haven't utilized photographs before. Hello, Linda. All right, so I've been utilizing photographs as, with horizon cards, mirror cards, but just as your basic foundation for scenes too, just to stamp right over the top of them. And I've given a lot of these things away, but I pulled out some of the ones that I've done recently, utilizing the new line of stamps. Here's the same type of background here, utilized in this colorful Mystic series scenario right here. The Mystic series looks really good in like a cloud cover. So utilizing backgrounds like this is kind of a natural fit, and it's just a really good way to, if you don't have a lot of time and you want to make something quick, or you just want to utilize the dynamic nature of this varied type of pattern surface that, you can download off, various sites out there. If you just Google, cloud photos or free cloud photos or sky photos or something like that, there's an endless supply of these types of things out there. Hello, Verna, Jeannie, Beth, and Annie. Good to see you all. But on mine, okay, so let's start from, square one. Okay, in my Flickr gallery, most of my photos that I was utilizing for most of my photo stamping happened to be kind of the lower, slightly lower contrast ones. So this is what this photograph right here looked like. It, as far as the contrast goes, okay, it looked more like that. But what I've done is I've desaturated this photograph right here, where there's not as much contrast or intensity of the blues in this one. And that's for, a specific reason. And it's because if we have high contrast types of backgrounds like this, when it comes to open styles of stamp designs, and I've just brought out a couple of them here, like this snowy covered bridge, or this snowy bank right here. Okay, these open areas of these types of designs are going to be open for anything that's in a set pattern background, be it a cloud photograph or, holographic foils, any type of colored paper. This type of image right here is going to be like a window showing right through the image into that background in there. So what I've done is I've created these cloud types of files. They're photos, files, whatever. And I've really desaturated everything so that you can utilize, kind of whatever type of imagery you want on here, be it an open style one, like this, or your stronger silhouettes, okay? Silhouettes can stamp over anything, okay? Because if you're going to stamp them in black, all right, that's going to hold up against whatever type of background you have, okay? And it's not just photographs, like I said, any type of colored backgrounds, varied backgrounds, foils, holographics, all that type of thing, okay? Here's an example of primarily silhouette-based imagery. The rocks down here are open, so it's showing the colors of the photograph right through the rocks in there, okay? Now, I'm going to show you different ways to get around this, too. Then that's just, like I said, this video is more for the beginner to the photo stamping, whatever, novice, okay? All right, so let's start with that. Open and close styles of imagery and the usage with set pattern backgrounds, okay? And like I said, this is not just referring to, cloud stamping, okay? And we'll get into the media on this as well, okay? But let's just start off with open and closed styles of photos. Okay, so if you've gone into my Flickr gallery and downloaded some different photos, I don't know if I should, I was thinking maybe I should label them, but you know what I mean? But by the time people, print these things out, they're not going to have, some notation, I don't think, next to the photos that are, low contrast. You can see this one right here, you know what I mean? It's more kind of wide open to whatever types of imagery you want to use on here. But let me show you how to use these types of things, and I'll show you the workaround with open styles of imagery, okay? Let's see, hello to, let's see, Annie, High Ground Home and Garden, good to see ya. Hello, Kathy. All right, so, okay, I guess I need to go into this too. All right, so with cloud, types, sky photography, I'm saying clouds here, but it could be anything. You could have sunsets, or I don't know. There's been all kinds of photo stamping before, but I'm going to be talking about more of the sky ones. There's been photo stamping of, let's say, an open field or something like that, and people have stamped like animals in that open field, okay? Stuff like that. That's photo stamping too, but I'm going to be talking about more of like a sky photo application here too. So not as many people do set imagery in the background because there's not as many things you can do with that type of thing. If you take a photograph of a farm or something like that, and people are stamping cows or animals in there, you're not going to turn that into like a, like a lighthouse scene on the coast or something like that, where you can do, whatever you want with sky imagery, because, sky imagery can go with just about anything, Yeah, I don't know. I can't think of too many things that it can't go with, unless you have like it's snowing, but you're gonna do something in Tahiti or something like that. But you could. Okay, so open and closed styles of imagery. Okay, let's just stamp out this snowy covered bridge here. Okay, now I should note here that all of my prints here that I've made are on glossy photo paper, okay? If you have a home inkjet printer and you want to print onto, matte cardstock or something like that, that's going to open things up in terms of the different types of media that you stamp on your backgrounds with, okay? But if you're going with glossy photo paper, okay, The things that I've found that work the best on it are water-based media, because that's what your inkjet printer is designed with, okay? StazOn would work on something like that just fine. Now Linda's in here. Linda used like a VersaFine Clair. I found that that did not dry on my glossy photo paper, okay? So you might just test things out in terms of, you know, your media surface compatibility with the brands that you have, okay? You might have two different brands of paper. You might do a test and just try your different types of inks on it. Do 4 different prints of there of some imagery or something like that and try 4 different types of inks. But with your water-based media, which are dye-based inks, or something like a Brilliant specialty pigment ink is going to set and dry on this type of surface just fine, okay? StazOn will as well. StazOn just, you know, sticks to just about anything. Okay, so your more kind of wide open style of photo, okay? In terms of not having too many contrasts in here, not hard edges and stuff like that, okay? That's what most of my photos look like when I was establishing kind of a photo gallery. This one is a little bit more contrast in here, but I kind of have that right way up here. Down here, you know what I mean? It's not as contrasty as something like this that I've taken recently and actually jacked up the saturation and contrast even more for certain types of applications that I'm kind of getting into a little bit more and more, okay? All right, open style of imagery. All right. So I'm just going to stamp this down here. Now this open style of rooftop right there, you have to kind of figure out where you want, you know, that to be within this varied space. That's the thing about stamping on a varied surface background like this. You know, what you want to be light within this space is, you know, going to determine where you stamp that out within that space. So let's just go, this is a little bit darker up here. I want my rooftop to be in a little bit more of an illuminated area, and so instead of doing it down here, okay, where that's going to be in darkness right here, I'm going to turn it this way and just stamp it right down here, like so. We could have done it, I don't know. In some cases, you can do things vertically, so you don't have to stamp, you know, like if you take your own photograph, you know, you'll remember probably what was up and down. You don't have to be bound by that in terms of your usage of that photograph as a background. Okay, now you can still see, you know, little patterns within here, but by the time we color this up, that's not going to be very visible. Okay, but now if I stamp something like this, now I'm not going to do a full scene right here, but just to show you, you know what I mean? We don't have like a hard contrast going through that rooftop or down here in the, you know, the road like that. If I stamp it over something like this, I know this is like a beginning, you know, type of a stamper type of thing right here. But that's, you know, sometimes people, you know, that are just getting into scenic stamping, that, you know what I mean, they're starting almost off on square one sometimes, where, you know, someone might do this and they say, I want a moon right there. So they'll take like a moon image like this one, you know, any one of these moons right here, and stamp it over that and expect that moon to be white, you know what I mean? But it's not. It's just going to be like a window into this open area right here. So we'll show you what this looks like, and let's specifically stamp this in an area where there's going to be some hard contrast running right through the open areas of this image, okay? All right, stamp this on down like so. Stamping on the photos too, there's going to be a different feeling to it when you're stamping on top of emulsion like that. That emulsion kind of grabs and dries the image really fast. So, you know, you might be peeling that off. That's completely natural. Just kind of expect that. All right, so the two differences right here, right? This one's not, this background right here, which is this photograph right here, not so good with open images. Get it? You know, does that make sense? But let's say we wanted to stamp something like this in the foreground and just do it all in black. There's not really any open areas within this design right here. Or something like the, solid trees or something like that. You can just stamp that right over the top of this, as long as you're doing it in a darker color than what these contrasting areas are. No problem, right? Silhouettes, okay? But let's say you do want to get something like this utilized within this image. I mean, you could do something like, I never do this either, where you stamp out this on a different piece of paper, you cut it out and you just paste it right over the top of this, right? And then, then you've utilized a photograph within this space right here. The thing that I do, if I want to stamp something like this out and utilize something like this with these dynamic contrasts in the background, is that you utilize, for me, a water-based Brilliance pigment ink, okay? You can't substitute like an oil-based that I know of, okay? And just slather it on over that area that you're going to stamp this image in, okay? Because I just don't think it's going to dry. It's possible that you can do some sort of workaround maybe. Or if you really want to use this one, then don't print it out on photo paper. You'd print it out on like a matte cardstock or something like that, right? And then you can utilize whatever types of pigment ink down there. Stamp your image on top of there with a, black stays on or something like that, and that should work. But here's what I've been doing right here, and I'll show you the applications where I've utilized this process right here. Okay, so if that image is going to go right here, I'm just kind of figuring out where that's going to be. I'm not sticking right to only where that rooftop is. Okay, I'm kind of going a little bit over so it'll look like some clouds in the back of that right there. And I get this foundation going right here. So this is what we call blocking out, okay? This is for your foils too. Any type of colored background where you want your imagery to really show and not be influenced by the surface that you're using, the inherent characteristics of the surface. This is one of the things you can do. So I use this with your holographic printable vinyl sticker papers, just holographic foils, or cardstocks. You can utilize this technique right here with a lot of different things. And again, it's the white Brilliance ink, okay? Like on foils and things like that. This type of ink is going to dry on that type of non-porous surface, okay? Now, foil is going to be different than photo paper, though. Just keep that in mind, okay? All right, so we're blocking out. You don't need to block out things just absolutely opaque and, completely blocked out. But get a good foundation of it going on, down there. Because one of the things that I do, too, is I color my pieces afterwards, too. In this case, something like colored pencils would work well post-impression, okay? All right, now, out in this area, what I would do is I would fill it in with some additional snowy texture or something like that. So let me just kind of block out some of that as well. Okay. Now, at just some point in time, like I said, this doesn't have to be a solid white down here. But get a pretty good amount of it going. The darker the contrast, the harsher the contrast, the more, you'll probably want to layer on here. And this layers on here really well on this type of photo paper. It's sticking to it, so you can really build it up. On things like foils, you can only kind of layer so much before you're kind of tapping on them. And it's like you're almost like you're removing some of that ink on there, okay? And it takes a little while to build this up, but if you look at just the time expenditure on photo stamping, these photo stamping pieces are, I don't know, to me, they're some of the fastest types of cards to do because you already have this whole area in your background established. Where if we were working on a white piece of paper and you wanted to establish kind of atmosphere and color variations in your sky, blues, sunsets, whatever, you know what I mean? That's taking longer to do than this blocking out right here. After you do this blocking out, there's not really a whole lot that you're doing on these types of photo scenes because there's so much already established in terms of the dynamics of the piece, the atmosphere, the mood of it. It's all those types of things are usually established by your skies. Okay? All right, so anyways, I have this area blocked out like this. Okay, so you can see the differences right here. Let's put this up kind of right next to it, That was, I don't know, I've knocked out probably like 90% of that value of blue, okay? You see that harsh line right there. That goes all the way up into that area. That, for the most part, is really muted out, okay? All right, so now, when you're stamping on top of Brilliance ink like that, I'm going to recommend, it might work out okay with a super juicy inked up version of, hello Rhonda, inked up version of your dye-based ink, okay? Because water-based over water-based should work out okay, but what I like to do is I like to go with something a little bit, kind of darker and thicker. So I like to go with the Brilliance ink on top of Brilliance ink. Like I said, you can probably go with a dye over the top of that. But if you do it, whatever dye-based inks you use, re-ink it, if you're stamping into a thick application and built-up application of kind of a, I wouldn't call it powdery, but that's what it feels like to me. That's pretty well stuck on there, though, and it's dry already. But I think thicken to thick works out a little bit. I think it works out a little bit better. Now, by the way, some people might be asking themselves, no, wait a minute. Can you just block out on this now? Okay. If you added that white right over the top of all this, I'm going to be muting out all of that image in there. So I guess if you're doing this on the stamp positioner and you have like this, your stamp in there and you have this kind of positioned where you can get that same impression on the same location, that might be a good way to use, do it too, because you can see where your image is going to go and you can, tap all that white into that area and then just go for that impression and get it again like that, okay? All right. So let's stamp this in this area again in the same vicinity. Open area, open style design. With the Brilliance on Brilliance, I am kind of holding this down a little bit longer to allow that ink to transfer over to my page and kind of set up and dry. Okay, so you have your image now perfectly well established in terms of your, kind of definition of it within that background space. And this is just going to read as a little bit of cloud back there. And if you've seen any of my videos, what I like to do is I like to add a little bit more pigment ink in the front of this, so you have some of that white pigment ink behind as well as in front of it, and that kind of envelops your image in this kind of misty, cloudy bank, okay? But like I said, for other types of solid imagery, you don't have to do all that blocking out, right? Because if you're going to stamp this right over the top of this, I'm not going to utilize this one, but I just want to show you what solid imagery stamping would, look like on here, even in a very contrasted, dark area, such as this right here, okay, where there's a lot of, there's like a, I don't know, that blue's probably like a 75%, dark blue. And then we have, whatever, 1% white or something like that, okay? So big contrast right in there. But, stamping yet your solid imagery like this shouldn't be a problem, okay? Go with whatever your favorite black ink is, something nice and dark like that. But see, that will just go straight over the top of it. I didn't stamp at the bottom right there for some reason. I got a piece of lint on my stamp there. But let's fill this in a little bit. Okay. All right, so flanking with some trees like that. All right, so I'm just showing you that these solid trees are going to stamp over just about anything that you have in the background. So silhouette types of images, you don't have to kind of consider all of these different types of blocking out situations right there. But like I said, the beginning stamper, to scenic stamping, if you have to do some blocking out, sometimes the tendency is just to, I only want to block it out right to that cabin and not have this area right in there, okay? I don't do that, that's too tedious for me. So not something that I would really want to have to implement in any type of, I don't know, stamping techniques and whatnot. Too tedious for me, so not desired. Okay, so everyone get that with, your hard contrasting types of cloud designs and whatnot, sky imagery in the background, okay? So as that applies to my Flickr account, a lot of the older ones, the latest ones are kind of more of a stronger contrast. They're bolder, okay? But see, a lot of these ones, like you can't even tell which is like up and down with a lot of these because I've zoomed in really close. There's not a lot of high contrast. I mean, that's probably up and down right there if the lighting is coming from above. But on these types of things like this, you can stamp out just about anything you want over the top of them, okay? So on this one, I'm using my scene as a canvas field or whatnot, and I'll show you where I'm using these clouds photographs as more of a backdrop to one of the more kind of three-dimensional applications here, as well as vellum. Okay, that's where I've really needed these. But let me just show you. Okay, so speaking of vellum, okay, I just pulled out some different cards that I've used photographs in, okay? Now this one right here is a piece of vellum, and in my, as you can see, I got these printed out at Costco. If you like these types of techniques, I don't know what I got. I got all of these different photos right here, and I had printed up like 3 or 4 of each of them, okay? You can see these ones are my older ones, less of that high contrast nature, so that I can stamp right over the top of them. I wasn't utilizing photographs like I am now, so they're all kind of that same basic kind of foundational contrasting patterns. Like I said, some of them are a little bit stronger in some areas, okay? But some of them too, okay, some of them are also, your blue skies and whatnot, okay? But some of them, and I'll show you where I've utilized this, some of them I've taken out all the saturation so it's more grayscale. And where these ones really come into play is, let's say if I wanted to do some autumn types of trees over the top of a photograph, and I'll show you where I've done that too. If I'm doing that and it's over like a hard contrasting blue like this, and I'm stamping at a tree that's reds and oranges or something like that, that blue is going to show right through those types of trees. So, or that color of trees. So I have these, completely monochromatic backgrounds as well, where these are going to be more open to different color schemes of your imagery that you're utilizing over the top of them too. So, there's quite a bit of that, and some of them are just have a little bit of tone, but for the most part, they're desaturated. Like that blue right there was that blue before, but I've completely desaturated it. And I've cut down the contrast of these ones as well, where you get the benefit of the patterning, but without the high contrast that's going to limit our usage of it. Okay, so going back to this patterning in here, see, oh, and when I got these, okay, so what I was getting at right here, these are 4x6 prints because those are just the cheapest ones, you know, that you can get. When you start getting into like the 5x7s or 8x10s or something like that, the price really goes up. So my formatting for most of my photo stamping is around the 4x6 print. Okay, I don't know, they were 10, 15 cents each or something like that. But what I've also done, if I want to do any vellum style cards, I've cut out some 4x6s like this, and I just keep them with them like this in the pack. And this right here is a 4x6, 4-inch by 6-inch mirror card. So this area down here is just stamped in with some reeds in black. And that photograph is in the background. But do you see this area right down here where it's all kind of greens and yellows and oranges and whatnot? Okay, that was doing your blocking out like we have done right here. So see this right down here, I can color this whatever I want with things like colored pencils, okay? This area down here is just colored right over the top of that. I didn't have to do too much blocking out though, because see, I don't have those clouds showing up down here because I've done, you know, this coloring down here. But this is where this applies, that blocking out and coloring, to a vellum application as opposed to just directly right over the top of the photograph like this. So it's hard to see here, but this is like vellum. Do you see how this is kind of like softer and kind of muted? That's where that vellum really comes into play. So that's a really fun way to utilize these. But I wish this area in the background had a little bit more contrast because we'd be able to see those clouds a little bit more. So going back to your contrasting styles of backgrounds, let's just utilize this one right here. See this right here where I've cut down a lot of the contrast on here, or let's get a colored one as well. Something like this, okay? See, if I'm putting this piece of vellum over the top of that, it really mutes it out even more. So see that, I don't know, whatever, 25% gray? That's like a 10% gray. It cut out like half of it. So see that right there? How soft that looks right there? I mean, it looks kind of nice, but you can't really see that photograph as much, or even on, you know, the one that's utilizing color right here. When you're blocking it out like that, I think that looks pretty cool, but it is really muting out that background, where if we're using a more solid, you know, contrasting style of imagery, you know, the darker the contrast, the heavier the contrast, things like that, you're going to retain more of that sky type of patterning in there, okay? So that's the difference between utilizing imagery, the cloud photographs that are stronger in contrast than the ones that are weaker, okay? These ones like this, you can't utilize as many different types of imagery over the top of them as you can the more malleable ones. But these ones are more dynamic, right? So it's a little bit of a, you know, you just have to pick and choose what type of utilization that you want for whatever specific project you're working with. Okay, so let's take a look at in these different projects again here. Okay, so again, I need to do more of these types of things. The vellum's really fun to use, and especially now that I have these stronger types of imagery in the back. See, like that would have been really cool right back in there, I think, you know. A little bit of a stronger blue tones and sky patterning in there. I think this one's, I don't know, this one's calmer and softer. This one would be slightly more dynamic, okay? I don't know. I wouldn't call it dramatic or anything like that, but maybe more dramatic than the other one. Okay, so this one right here is, again, it's another mirrored piece. I've given away a lot of my pieces, but I save these mirrored ones sometimes because it's like I can't bear to give them away yet. But this is the Autumn Brook and Autumn Bank, right? Okay. And do you see where these have been stamped down here? Okay. There's probably some of those blues down in this area, so I probably blocked these out down here because you can't see any of the patterning in there at all. Now, like I said, I mean, someone could do this on a piece of white paper and just, cut it out, but who wants to do all that cutting? So this is a lot more integrated in here, just right over the top of the photograph, but look how dramatic that is, like that. See this right down here? See, I've stamped out the bottom of this right down here, right into the foil. But but that's not what this video is about. Okay, piece that was done last week, where we did a lot of that blocking out. If any of you were here last week, 5x7 printout of this photograph right here. This is 4x6. And I've blocked out all of this area. But see, I didn't block out quite as far up here. That's why we get that blue showing through right into... Actually, this is the snowy bank right here that I was showing you right here. Right here, okay? But we had to block it out. And in this case, we turned the snowy bank into, spring type of, hillside or whatnot. Okay? But, yeah, fun stuff. So more dramatic, okay? That was the first time I used that that photograph, or any one of my latest photographs from a couple weeks ago, I think it was. Okay, another scene like this one, just, kind of more of the muted background, probably more, a better use than, say, something like this or this. I think this would look pretty cool on there, but see these darker backgrounds like that, I don't know if we'd be able to see these tree leaves in here as well against that strong and contrasting a background, okay? But again, blocking out this bottom portion like that and coloring it in. I mean, you could, go with something like this. Maybe those leaves would show up, but I think they would kind of blend into the background where this background might be competing more with kind of what I would say is the star of the scene, which are those colored leaves within those branches up there. So I didn't want them to compete as much, okay? Okay, let's see here. Do we ever have the challenge of having the inked stamp slip on that glossy surface? The glossy surface slippage for me, which is a great question, comes with this area down here, the silver foil. For me, I've slipped on that, but I have slipped with certain types of inks on this, which would be, I just did that. I don't know, where's that scene that I just finished off? I finished off a scene the other day where I did slip with that tree specifically. It went like that a little bit. It skewed after I stamped it down. So it depends on the ink that you're using. If you're utilizing like a StazOn ink that's going to, stamp on there, transfer, and dry like instantly, okay, there's less chance of it kind of wobbling on you than a thicker style of ink that's going to be, take longer to transfer and is in solution for a lot longer. So it just depends, but this type of paper right here is really designed to, your photo papers are really designed to dry fast, okay? Because when you're running it through your inkjet printer with all those, 4 colors of ink that are utilized on them, they don't want that to take forever to, to dry. So those prints, they dry, for the most part to the touch, within a few minutes. And that's the same for your water-based media, crafting media that's utilized on there. But yeah, be careful about that. And yeah, and I apparently I do slip with it occasionally. You kind of get the feel of it though, after you do it a few times. But if I don't do it for like a couple weeks, I feel like I'm kind of starting at square one again. You might have just a print like this. Have a blank piece of paper. Photo print that you didn't print anything out on, okay? Just have some photo paper And just leave that as your little test printing thing. So anytime you're doing photo printing, stamping, stamp on there and just, get the feel of it, because it's not just the ink that you're using, but it's how juicy your pads are and how much ink you're about to transfer down on there too. So, and I don't know, like I said, it might change depending on the brand of paper too. Some might grab and dry faster than others. Some might be a little bit more less porous than others. So I don't know. I've tried like Epson and Kodak and Costco papers. To me, most of them are kind of the same, but that was utilizing probably a more limited range of inks than I'm utilizing on them today. But that's a great question, though. Okay. All right. So photographic usage. Okay. Now, see, this right here is just, you can do photo stamping, and just this could be the card right here. Okay. So you don't have to do everything in a reflection card format like that. But these, those clouds look really awesome, or just any type of skies in general in that reflected area are really fun like that to do. So I don't know, it's kind of increased my interest, I think, with photo stamping, with these different types of more three-dimensional applications. Okay, so this is a card that I did recently too. Now this one right here, this one to me looks a little bit more, it's kind of more of that muted, it looks like a storm is rolling in, okay? I think that one would have been cool like that, or something, I don't know. A little bit brighter for this scene, but I didn't have a lot of these latest prints printed out. I was just utilizing the ones that I had. So this is what I call a horizon card. So instead of, image up here, mirrored, card down here, you're just utilizing the folding aspect of this. I gave this to my wife for Mother's Day, by the way. Mother's Day because of all those babies down there, right? But yeah, I mean, I think these look really great as just your backdrops for these types of horizon cards. I'll show you what this looks like. Let's say we wanted to make this into a reflection card. I'll show you what this looks like this. Okay, this isn't 4x6. This is, 4 1/4 by 5. But you can see, that's what that cloud would look like down in that area right there. So I wouldn't have this though in a reflection break, because I don't like that reflection of it down there. But you can just see what these images and that cloud area kind of looks like that. We could stamp like a little boat down here if this is a reflection card, and it would be like there on a, crystal clear, mirrored. I don't know. I guess it would be more of a lake than an ocean, without any kind of a, patterning there at all. But okay, so let's see. Okay, so this was kind of this to me was photo stamping for many years. Just stamping your basic imagery right over the top of a photograph, and that was that. Okay, I kind of started utilizing my alcohol pens though to do additional coloring and shading over the top of the water-based inks on the photo paper. Okay. And that's how I can get some different variation in there. In this case right here, I've utilized some of that white pigment ink over the front of this just to bring, some of that white kind of cloudy textures inherent in the photographs in front of my imagery. And that made things look a little bit more three-dimensional, okay? And I think this is a really fun technique. I'm going to be doing this in a workshop for a retreat coming up, but just to show people, different ways to use, in this case, nature set number 8 imagery, okay? But we're going to just do, your basic type of, photo stamping in that class. But, okay, but like I said, I just find that these types of, other types of media used in conjunction with it are just so much, I don't know, it really brings those photographs to life. I think it integrates them a little bit more too, when you're utilizing different types of media over the top of them. And I haven't utilized, I've been experimenting with different types of things, but, I feel like I'm still kind of, I don't know about in the infancy of the technique, but I don't know. I don't know. I'm figuring out new things all the time with this. Okay, let me see. How do you adhere the vellum to the cloud photo without seeing the glue? That's a great question too, Teresa. I utilize, let me see, I just tossed it here. But I utilize spray adhesive, okay? Other people have diluted their crafting glues before, like, I don't know, where's my crafting glue? Okay. I've seen where people have utilized stuff like this, and they've diluted it though, and then they've taken actually a sponge, and then they've just sponged it on very lightly, and then put the vellum right over the top of that. I just find it so much easier just to spray it like that in a couple seconds. With a spray adhesive, like a 3M Super 77 stands out to me. There's a 3M art adhesive that's a temporary adhesive, okay? But if you give it a pretty thick coating like that, it's pretty permanent, okay? But that gives you that really even coat of adhesion down there. And then, for you to put that piece of vellum right over the top. And you might get, if you spray, sometimes with those types of spray adhesives, it gets kind of like a little spotty here and there. So that when you adhere the vellum right over the top of that, certain areas might seem a little bit darker because that's where those kind of bigger drops of glue are. And it makes the vellum a little bit more transparent in those areas, okay? If that happens, just when you do that type of thing, just come to expect it, okay? It happens to me all the time. And if you look close on my card that's done that way, and let me see if that happened on this one. Okay, I'm sorry, I can't like zoom in too close, but there's a couple little spots on here that are like a stronger blue dot within here, okay? Here and there within this space. I don't know if you can see it, but you can see it a little bit right in here. It's gonna happen, okay? It's inevitable. But I just see that as part of the, I don't know, textural quality of the piece, okay? I've tried it one time where I've done 2 layers of vellum just to create extra depth. And that one went bonkers, okay? That one, it was too much. It was too many coats of glue, then vellum, and then another layer of glue, then vellum, okay? And with vellum too, kind of expect a little bubble, to get bubbles in there. At this size though, 4x6, I don't really get too many of them, but when I start going to 5x7 or half page, sometimes you adhere that vellum over the top of your photo or background or whatever. These vellum pieces don't have to have this sky background in there. But having that sky background, you're already working with several layers. It's kind of nice to have kind of a existing background that you don't have to, do. It's already, one of the layers is already done for you, okay? But expect those little air bubbles. You kind of work them out as much as you can while the, the piece hasn't set up, the glue hasn't set up, and you try to work the bubble out of there. But I can feel this right here. There's a little bit of a ridge right here where I didn't get that completely worked out. If you get a big bubble in there and it's just like locked into place, what I do is I take an X-Acto blade and I just pop it and I just work that air out of that pocket, because sometimes it's already sealed up around the edge. So when you're adhering this type of thing, try to work it out from the center out like that, okay? Sometimes I'm just kind of laying it down and trying to get it nice and even, and then I'm working it out, but, try not to press too hard and then just work it out from center out like that. But like I said, the 4x6s I don't have too much of a problem with, but when it came to the half-page pieces, a little bit more tricky, And you spray your background, okay? You don't spray the vellum, okay? You spray it here, the stiffer of the 2 surfaces. So in this case, vellum's going to be real floppy. Okay, so if you have your things stamped over the top of this and you spray it with a spray adhesive, you don't want it to go like this, and really curl up on you and have to kind of spread that out like that. So just a thin layer over the top of your photographs and you're good. So I don't get as many bubbles and that kind of spotting area in there anymore. I don't know. I think it was a lot of times my 20-year-old can of 3M spray. Or actually, it wasn't that old, but it was like 15 years old, where it was kind of like blotchy. But I got a new can. It's like nice and thin, even spray coatings of it. But let's see. Hello, Paul. Good to see you. Where does one get cloud pics from, or do you take them yourself? They're always in any of my cloud photo stamping videos. Okay, there's always links to everything in every video. Okay, it's always below. A lot of people don't know YouTube videos. There's a description section, and then you click show more, and then if there's anything additional notations, it'll expand that section. But I always have links to everything that's been used in there. I don't link to something like plain white cardstock or something like that. I figure people have them, something like that. But there's a whole album in there called Clouds. Okay. All right. What do you use to attach the vellum to the photo? Okay, yeah. You got that right there. Okay, I don't know. I was asking both of you guys there. Hello, Jen. Okay, so just basic photo pieces like this. Okay, so again, this one's just utilizing a very generic, background in there. And this one right here, this type of background in here is going to be more appropriate for this type of setting, right? Because I don't know, I have my Mystic Mountain somewhere. But to see like something like this, you're not going to be able to stamp those mountains right over the top of all those clouds, because you're going to have that high contrasting area right there showing right through the mountains. So the more kind of, open, generic, malleable a surface is going to be better than something like that. Okay. Let's see here. I wish I had, here's that other one right here. So this is another piece right here. This is where I've kind of skewed that background winter ash tree right there. But it might not be so apparent on this one because I've really covered in the background of this, but this one is a photo print right in there. But see all that, that little background in there? Like I said, I don't know if anyone's going to see it and say, oh, that was, those are some clouds in the background. But it's kind of nice having that area kind of just already established. I didn't have to do any toning and inking in the background to establish, a little bit of variation back there. I think this scene would look pretty cool just on a white piece of paper too, in some ways. But, you could, like I said, you could do, these types of things, but you would just have to do some blocking out over the top of something like that, which again, I showed you on that other piece from last week. I couldn't wait to use this one. But see, this is kind of the same setting right here as, this one right here. Just a little meadow down below, kind of dynamic, upper area on this one, more of a generic area on this one. Trees stand out more in this one, right? And the trees stand out less in this one because, we have dark against dark. This one's kind of dark against darker, but certainly darker. So you can see, now this one I added more, foliage on too, but you can see that this one, this one right here, the sun, our little figure is, reasonably prominent in this one, but they kind of, that dark silhouette there kind of, merges in with this area a little bit more because that blue right there is like I don't know, what would you say? Like a 70% blue, 75% darkness against 100% black. I don't know, whatever, 98 or whatever. This one right here, this guy really stands out because, you know what I mean? It's so light in this whole area right here. So, a little bit more background integrated, standing out a little bit more in this one. So it just depends on what, you're going for again, as far as your photographic background foundation choice, when using your photographs right here. Let's see. Linda has grown to love photo stamping. I did too, Especially, I'm okay. So, doing these photo stamping pieces, like I said, I mean, this technique has been around. We're in a photo stamping kind of instructional video. It should be noted. The guy that came out with, that first started doing photo stamping was this guy named Randall Curry. And he was doing it like in, I would say, 1996. It wasn't too long after I started Stampscapes, which is 93, 94. And he just started taking photos. And the thing that shocked me about using photographic prints on photo paper was that you can just use it. You can print on these photo papers with your dye-based ink. Okay, this is pre like digital photography and a lot of home inkjet printer techniques. So, he was getting all his prints at, printed out at, your wherever you get your prints done, Costco, whatever, CVS, Longs or whatever. And so a lot of the things that he was stamping on there were, your dye-based inks, pens or something like that. So that's the thing that really shocked me about it all, because I didn't think that dye-based inks would adhere to this type of paper, but that's before I knew about kind of that emulsion coating and the whole water-based type of water that's or ink that's used on photo prints, because we weren't printing at home. We were getting it printed out at the store. So, I don't know, we're like splashing water in it and saying, "Oh my God, the water, the prints are going back into solution," or something like that. So, Randall Curry, and then he started selling. It became kind of, and I wouldn't not say popular, but more people started doing it. There was a feature of him in Rubber Stamp Madness with photo stamping, and he started selling packs of photos, not these ones, these are mine, but I still had one of his packs, and I don't know, I broke one of those out a couple years ago and started doing some photo stamping. Just to kind of, I don't know, show people kind of just the general techniques of it. I don't know if it was for my Mood and Media series where I'm just doing the same exact composition that looks like this kind of, with different types of media surface combinations, But like I said, I was using, the photos for this type of look, not, like this, with acrylic paint pens and I don't know what else, different types of media that are available these days. So I don't know. I'm still, getting, the feel of it too, and what, what the possibilities are with our own pieces. So I haven't even gotten in. Okay, so I touched on this briefly, when I talked about what I'm going to be doing the demonstrations on. So like I said, these are all photo papers right here, okay? But let's say I think it would be interesting for someone to try out something like a photo print, but just print it out on matte cardstock or something like that. Now, I got to think that, printing out these types of inks onto a matte cardstock, this is not matte cards, this is, glossy photo paper, but if you printed out something like this, in these open areas where you don't get ink covering those areas, maybe it'd be better with a kind of a more open area like this where there's not too much in here. But you might be able to incorporate photo stamping with things like pastels, and coloring certain areas, so you would stamp out something on this. And then you might be able to color these areas that haven't been applied with your inkjet printer ink if they're doing it at home. And you can probably color directly with soft media like that. Or you might be able to do just colored pencils directly on this, okay? Colored pencils aren't going to stick to this glossy tiles, style of surface like this. They will stick to the brilliance applied background blocking out, that we've done on most of these pieces. Where's the piece that I just did? Okay, so something like this right here. Okay, you can color this with your colored pencils, but I'm not coloring. Well, I guess you can get a little bit of color on there. These are real soft, but this works very easily. You see what I mean? Over the top of the Brilliance ink application that was underneath. If you just joined in, what I did was I blocked this all out. But you saw me do this last week too, if you were on here too, or if you've watched any of these photo stamping videos where I blocked out using some Brilliance ink. This applies on this really, really easy. It feels like coloring on a piece of like copy paper to me over the top of that Brilliance ink like that. But where this isn't really going to apply easily. I see a little scribble mark on there, but, it's not going to apply very easily. So, different kinds of experiments. I know we know someone on the Facebook group that stamps on things like a lot of like watercolor papers and things like linen, that might be like fascinating, to utilize something like that. The glossy photo papers like that are going to give you the most amount of saturation, contrast, and definition, with your forms like that. If you want like super, sharp, photographs or something like that, or prints, I should say. But, there's something to be said for textural, different types of textural variations. So I think something like that. Can you imagine? So on something like this too, I think this, it's easiest to apply media on these nice smooth surfaces like this, a hot press paper, a smooth matte cardstock or something like that. But something like this, if you print it out on something like a textured, matte paper, I don't know about a linen or something like that, but it might give you the feel, especially if, it's clouds or something like that, it might give you the feel of like a canvas or something like that, in terms of appearance, though. If you have some of these things that are going on in the background on that type of surface. So I don't know, it's like the great unexplored medium out there, in terms of maybe the different potential of it. So this is another one of those types of images right here that this pavilion, I haven't colored this yet, but this right here was able to stamp within this space, no problem. But again, in this walkway right here, if I stamp this over the top of this right here, you'd have all those clouds and, that blue and, the cloud textures showing right through in that area. This one, it's showing through there. If you look at that, there's the little gray area right in here. It's a little bit darker in a couple little areas in here, but it doesn't really matter. It just reads as like shadows or something like this because it's like that light within that space right there. So, like I said, this type of print right here, as far as the utilization of it, a lot more malleable and open to the different types of imagery you want to stamp on there. But something like that would be far more dramatic though, so anyway, let's see, does anyone have any other questions on, photo stamping? Has anyone, okay, now, well, Linda, we can see that Linda's done photo stamping here before. Has anyone done photo stamping here? Questions that I would have are what types of inks have you utilized on there? Is there anything that anyone has discovered with photo stamping that didn't work, maybe? Okay. Now, like I said earlier, Linda tried some VersaFine Clair colors on some, right, photo paper, right? And it dried. But I've tried this VersaFine Clair. I don't think I still had it. This was like years ago. I tossed it, I think. But I stamped out something like this, and it looked pretty good after I did it. I think I did it in one of these videos. But then 2 weeks later, I looked at it, okay, off on the side on my, shelf or something like that. But the ink here spread, okay. That's going to happen with this one. This one's like dry, This one's, you know, dye-based ink or something like that. Yeah, this one's dye-based ink. It's not StazOn, but it just kind of it kept creeping out, so it was like blurred or something like that. And then when I went like this, it didn't just wipe out, completely wet, but I was able to just smear right through it a little bit. It was kind of on there, but again, it never seemed to dry for me, okay? And that was, I don't know what brand of paper I was using, but that one didn't work, okay? And there's other things too. If you're going to color something like this, you just remember your basics in terms of compatibility. I can color this water-based print here on top of the photo paper with, alcohol inks, no problem, okay? Like this, because, this, this alcohol ink isn't going to be putting water-based media back into solution here. I'm just going with something that barely shows here, but let me see if I have here. This pavilion is going to be red, but I'll just color it a light pink here first and add in some other colors later. But so you can color, your water-based, dye-based, impressions with your alcohol inks, and it's not going to make them smear. But don't do StazOn on top of the photo paper, and then go in with your dye base, your alcohol inks, and then try to color it, because it's going to smear it around. It'll put that media back into solution, because one thing about photo paper is that your media is very, very surface oriented, so that when you apply your media on the top of that, it's not really absorbing into the surface or the body, I guess the pulp of the paper at all, okay? So you can go in here like that and, kind of color that around. I got to color the whole thing now because I'm not going to do it in this video, but just to show you, you can color that around and it's not smearing the image at all, okay? I got to find a good color scheme for that pavilion right there. But anyway, just remember that, okay? Very surface-oriented applications of media, no matter what you put down there. So this was a lot of different alcohol pens kind of blended together on top of that, And I worked it pretty hard, but being that this was stamped out in your dye-based ink, no problem with the oil-based, the solvent-based alcohol pens, okay? And let's see right here. Thanks, Brenda. I remember coloring on top of photographs way back in the day, and it was really fun. Time to break that out again, Jen, And try the different things, though. Try the, where did it go? Try the doing things like the blocking out, down here. See, look at this right here. So see, I was able to bring in all these different colors in here with the paint pens that are available these days. I'm pretty sure I used colored pencils on this one. I can't even see them, though. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's on there. I don't think I've ever colored just directly with only paint pens on there, but where'd that vellum go? You guys like that vellum card, but yeah, I don't know where it went. Oh, here's the vellum, yeah. So the vellum card, the vellum usage of this. So, by the way, so on the Stampscape channel right here, if you look into playlists, okay, I have one I don't know if I have. I'm not sure. Do I have a photo stamping playlist? I might. Okay, but there's also a vellum list. Okay, I think playlist. Okay, so at this point in time there might be 1,700 videos up there. There was 1,605, 1,600. 50, I don't know, whatever. There might be 1,700 videos up there. So the playlists, take advantage of the playlists if you ever want to see, usages of of the different photos in there. Okay. But yeah. Jen, try the vellum right here. So these are a lot of types of things that people have too. And one of the things that I recommend too, when I post something like this, on Facebook or something like that. One of the things that one of a common response, you know, underneath the posts and things like that are from a lot of people are, oh hey, I take a lot of I've always taken a lot of photos of the skies, clouds, sunsets, or something like that, and I should use those. So a lot of times, if you take your own photos too, and utilize them, it really personalizes the pieces even more so. Okay. And when you take your photographs, if you see a really good sky, one of the things that I would do is I would try to not have too many landscape styles, imagery within those photos. So if there's like foreground trees or something like that, try to zoom in away from that so it make it more open to whatever you want to stamp over the top of that. If you're working around like silhouettes of like a horizon line, housing, rooftops or something like that, it becomes a little bit more limiting. Or if you're just doing it, you can crop it out later too, in your photo editors or whatever, or preview mode. You can crop your images or something like that too. And, I don't know, I think doing stuff like that too, I think it kind of takes you back, when you're utilizing those different types of photos, or if you've taken a picture of the moon or something like that. I think it takes you back to that moment that you took the photos too, except you're just utilizing it now in a, whatever your crafting purposes. And I think that's really fun. Hello, Charlie. Thanks for joining in. Let's see. I tried it and it was a disaster. I was using Memento. Oh yeah, Rhonda. Yeah. So the Memento. Now wait a minute. So the Memento. What? Was that on the photo paper, or was that on the? Someone was using Memento on the mirrored surface area. Was that you, Rhonda, or was that someone else? I couldn't remember. But yeah, remember, if it's like this type of setting like this, you're going to utilize different types of media up here on a water-based type of media than on your reflective, non-porous types of surfaces like that. Some of the things can translate to both areas like an acrylic paint pen, but for the most part, unless you're stamping out this up here in your StazOn, and also this down here in your StazOn, which you can do. But things like water-based media up here and water-based media down here, that wouldn't fly in this area down here, okay, in that reflective area. On the vellums too, I don't know, does anyone ever have any kind of comments on vellums too? Vellums, I've been using the Brilliance black for my imagery, but I think I used StazOn recently. I'm trying to kind of narrow things down a little bit, or just streamline things. So where StazOn can be used, where I'm not going to be employing alcohol ink coloring, I've been using StazOn a lot. I don't know, because it seems like most people have some kind of archival, if not specifically StazOn black. So I'm just using that these days for a lot of different things. Just so you know what I mean. People won't have there won't be so much variation with your surface media compatibility types of things, and StazOn too. If someone's in Australia or Europe or something like that, it's going to be easy to find. Where if I say, oh, I used, I don't know, some other kind of more niche brand of product, but it's the same type, it might act differently from, like, say, Memento for Rhonda and my use of the, I don't know where to go, the Marvy ink, okay? But it could also be the papers, too, that we're printing these things on, too. Like I said, Linda had no problem with the VersaFine Clair oil-based, pigment ink over the top of, that was glossy, right, Linda? I don't know. Glossy, I think glossy photo paper. I was shocked that that one dried because she like colored something. So she had a thicker application of that media, I think, than my single prints of it on that top of that. Whatever paper brand I was using, I don't remember at the time what it was. Might have been Epson, you know. All of my photo papers too that I'm printing on, I'm not talking about the ones that I got at Costco, but like I just printed these ones. I'm using that some paper that it's been sitting around in my house for like 15, 16 years, when digital photography came out and everyone was like printing at home, everyone was getting like all these printers and they always came with like, buy this printer for, whatever, $100 or something like that and get, one free pack of, 25 sheets of 11 by 17 glossy photo paper, or something like that. So I got tons and tons of like all that paper. And I don't know, at some point in time, I think we started doing less printing at home. So that's another thing that, people were mentioning with my photo stamping posts. It's like, oh my God, I got a ton of that paper. And I was wondering, what I should do with it. So I think a lot of people have it sitting around. So I don't know. It becomes a nice type of technique. Just in terms of the utilization of existing in our supplies media, So I'm glad to be able to use some more of this, I don't know. We have all kinds too. It's like, I noticed I have satin and I don't know if I have matte photo paper, maybe. I think I was usually opting for the glossy choice if there was that freebie that came with those printers, but I noticed I did have some satin. Okay, so let's see. I'm surprised that the Brilliance ink doesn't smear. Well, the Brilliance ink is water-based, fast drying pigment ink, and again, this type of emulsion coated photo paper, really grabs that. I find that Brilliance on top of photo paper for me I love that combination there. And it's because I really like the colored pencil look on photos like that. The photos to me are really super dynamic, potentially not like a real muted version, or something like this, but just the ability. Now I can't put, the colored pencil on that, but I really like that combination of the colored pencil on that background. Well, this one's colored pencil too, but it's on vellum like that, but paired with those cloud photos, it just really, I don't know, I really like that combination in there. I guess what it is for me, I'm into textures, and I find that colored pencils, as far as a medium goes, it's one of the softer looking types of end results. And I like that how it pairs with a real sharp, crisp print of skies or something like that. Now, something that would get, like I said, something that would be potentially even more contrasty and soft looking would be pastels. So we need to get someone, I don't know, like Linda, you do pastels. I've seen your pan pastel pieces. You got to try some of that. Let us know if you're able to apply some pan pastels over the top of, some Brilliance ink blocking out. That could be, I don't know. I don't know if that would work or not, because I don't know if it's, the pastels are going to stick to the Brilliance ink blocking out application, but I gotta think it would to an extent. I don't know how much you'd be able to build up on there, and of course you would spray seal it too. Okay, so here's another thing. Okay, no one asked me today, but I've always been asked in the past is, okay, so in terms of your photo stamping applications, okay, people often ask me, do you spray seal these? Okay. And I typically don't spray seal my photo stamping pieces. And it's because all of this stuff, it just sticks to it like crazy, no matter what I use on there. That emulsion coated, coating that's on here, it really grabs the inks that I'm using on here. Now, if you did, like someone did a pan pastels, you would spray seal that, certainly. But like all of these things like this, I don't need to. And here's the thing about that idea of this type of, photo paper usage with the different media. Remember how I was saying it was very surface oriented? It's not soaking in to the paper, like into the pulp of the paper, into the surface of paper like cardstock, okay? That's why we get all these super bright tones that are reminiscent of the true, intensity and value of the media, because it's not soaking in anywhere. It's just staying right on the surface, but it's drying and adhering to it too. Colored pencil, I guess when I'm not using the Brilliance ink, alcohol inks and acrylic paint pens. Okay, those are the three things that I'm utilizing a lot on there. It's adhering to it. It's super bright inherently without having to do anything over the top of it. Spray sealing really brings out the intensity if you're doing things like, your card stocks with any of this media on there. Alcohol inks too. Even pastels, things like that. It can really intensify your different colors. But on this, you don't have to do that. Okay, so I'm just talking about photo stamping on photo paper now too. If we photo stamp on matte cardstock, then maybe you would spray seal it if you want to kick up the intensity of it a little bit and value, to make things a little bit more saturated. I'm guessing that if we do those types of things on that type of paper, then that type of thing you might benefit from it. But if you don't really need to do anything to it, I would just, recommend just leaving it as is. It would be the purest form of, that media as it's been applied onto your pieces like that. So, and, like I said, these things really don't need protection at all from handling or anything like that. I don't know if you're giving it to, whatever, a 3-year-old or something like that, maybe. But, otherwise, I don't think you really need to do anything with it. So, yeah, I don't know. But I don't know. You would have to experiment, too, with those types of things. So, depending on your combinations of stuff. But I don't know. It's again, whatever, in conclusion, I mean, you can see these pieces right here. You can get more variation if you're doing something with a white piece of cardstock. You can make your skies, if you're doing a sky, into whatever type of thing you want. But it's not bad for a little change in pace to have all those things already done going into a scene. It's kind of fun, because you concentrate, I guess, in some ways. It's like, okay, the dynamics are, can't get any better than, those clouds up there like that, I don't know if it's reality or something like that, but you can concentrate more, if you have a set amount of time too, and you're doing autumn trees or something like that. You can, spend that time, kind of defining other areas within your pieces, if that's going to be kind of the technique that you want to do that day. You can put the things into trees instead of spending an equal amount of time doing that background up there and this down here, and then the things down here. Just, I don't know, have it already done. And it's kind of nice. And like I said, you can really personalize it too. So. It's really fun, to go out there. And one of the things is too, one of the benefits too, when people are doing these types of things, I've heard of comments in the past that people are they're paying more attention to skies now or something like that. And, maybe because they're like I don't know, whatever, cloud capturer now or sky capturer. They can see something and, okay, I'm going to utilize that there. So, they're going to capture it where they would normally just, I don't know, look up in the sky and, enjoy it for, those moments or something like that. You can utilize it from, going forward, which is really kind of fun in your scenes. So, yeah. All right. Let's see. Art photo paper instead of glossy paper. Okay, well, there you go. Oh, yeah. Utilize that photo paper there, Rhonda. And a lot of people, like I said, okay, so if you don't have paper, or your home-based printer, here's a technical type of thing, when you get your photo prints made, okay? Now, I made a mistake here today. I was printing this off, and I didn't know, I don't even have a photo printer. My wife has a color printer, but see this right here? When you get your prints made, or you're printing at home on your printer driver, if it's going to be like a 4x6 print or something like that, choose 4x6 borderless, okay? And unless you want that border on there, but if you're stamping right over the top of that, unless you don't mind the image going into that white area, and that might be kind of interesting to stamp some trees like this, like it's in front of, a photo or something like that, and this is like a window into the distance, but I would choose borderless, okay, if you're ordering prints or you're printing at home. Just in general, I think, unless you want that, that border on there like that as is. And one of the things is too, if you're not kind of formatting these pieces into cards too, I would mount this onto a piece. I make it look, nicer in terms of card, it'd be like a folded card or something like this. But if you're just, if you have a bunch of things that for yourself, you can slip this into a binder in a 4x6, photo album or something like that too. And I think that'd be kind of cool, to see your pieces in there. So, you have an inherent photo sleeve kind of application of these things though. But my my favorite application, as you can see here, is probably the I really love the mirror cards like that. Here's a card that I did the other day. That's I didn't intend for this to be a mirror card, but if I did throw it into a mirror, like I said, that's what it'd kind of look like that. I would put that boat down here, but look how cool that is with the those clouds and the up here, and then the reflecting down here. It's double your money, you get double the results, or I don't know, triple for your efforts in this one top area like that. So that and the Horizon cards are the new kind of area of exploration for me. And like I said, the this formatting here, I don't even know where it went now, is super fun like that, utilizing that background like that too. So again, for something like this for me, with all that cloud already established in the sky, I got to concentrate on this area down here and this area right in here. Okay, this is if you didn't see this card, this is on the holographic vinyl sticker paper. Okay, printable vinyl holographic sticker paper. Some people are mistakenly buying holographic cardstock. Okay, this is the printable vinyl holographic paper, which you can utilize too. Okay, but you're just utilizing it. It's not as malleable as this, but again, if you have all these types of things already established, like large portions of your scene, then you can concentrate on other areas of your piece, for the amount of time that you're, going to, dedicate to whatever the construction of whatever you're working on. So, yeah. So, yeah. So I'm going to be doing all this type of stuff, and then, I don't know, then I'll swing around. You'll probably see me doing a bunch of sky stamping scenes, because I don't know. Because I haven't stamped them for a while, so things tend to be a little bit more cyclical. But right now, I'm kind of really exploring a lot of the photo stamping applications for the different designs and scenes and whatnot. And it's just I don't know, it's just really fun to have that as an option these days, with a lot of variety too. Ink on vellum does not seem to dry. I've been using the Brilliance ink, I think, with my initial vellum pieces. The vellum does seem to be pretty non-porous, doesn't it? So I would say that would be another thing that I would use with Stays-On ink. Now, one thing about the Stays-On ink, if you're doing like a big, bold thing like this with Stays-On and you're applying a lot of that, I'm not sure if that would make that vellum kind of pucker a little bit. I'm not sure. But the Brilliance black for that is a really good option to go with. That's okay. So I have no affiliation with Sukaneko, okay? But these two different types of inks right here, speaking of that, I'd recommend that. You don't have to you say, oh my God, I already got pigment inks. I already have 3 different types. I don't want to buy another one. But the Brilliance inks are the water-based ones, okay? And they're fast drying, and they were specifically designed at the time to dry on glossy cardstock because you couldn't use your color box oil-based, inks from Clear Snap or something like that. That went dry on glossy cardstock. But that being said, that has a similar type of surface in terms of what it can take. So the Brilliance inks work really well in it. Or, like I said, or just use your Stays-On that vellum, okay? And I think it should be okay. I can't remember if I've used the Stays-On for vellum before. One thing about the Stays-On, though, like anything else, how it dries really fast, and if you're utilizing a very thin, sheet of vellum like that, when you stamp on there, just, you're probably going to have to carefully remove it because it's going to be like you're peeling it off something, it's like adhered to it. So when you remove something like that, just try not to buckle this too much, You can straighten it out when you'd use that spray adhesive and you adhere it down there. But the flatter this is, when you're going for that type of application like that, the easier it is going to be to get that nice smooth pairing with the surface down there. So this is what I tried before. See, this is like one thing of vellum right here. These birch trees are stamped. They're probably stamped on the front of this vellum. And then these leaves, the purple leaves back there, are stamped on the back side of the vellum. And then one of the times I did something like this, okay, and then I stamped things like this. Not this exact scene, but what I did was I tried to put another layer of vellum like this, but with other things in front of here, which pushed everything back more. But maybe I could do it in the 4x6, but it didn't really work on the 5x7 because there was like big bubbles that developed in there. It was a little bit too much. But I don't know, maybe I should try that again sometime because it would really look, super dimensional having, all those different layers on there too. Now remember, when you use some spray adhesive on this and then you do pair these things up, this vellum does get slightly more transparent, than how it looks right now. So you'd have some of that imagery showing through a little bit more. But I don't know, when you have 3 different kind of layers of things like that, it can really look, super dimensional like that, potentially. But like I said, I got some pretty harsh bubbles in mine. So yeah. Okay, so that was another good point there in terms of media surface compatibilities right there with that comment. What important when ordering vellum is not to order the cardstock variety. Yeah, there's a cardstock vellum, and I think they're just referring to the texturing of it, right, Linda? It's not so translucent, transparent either, right? But that can get confusing too. The vellum I'm using, which is still out there, is just, I use a Canson, just standard vellum. This one's a 55-pound variety here. And I find that to be, good to stamp on and also transparent enough. I don't know if there's any, does anyone know if there's any thinner vellums out there? I don't know if that would make it kind of more wobbly though, when adhering something. It could make it easier too, just to really smooth it out. But I don't know if it would be a more difficult surface to stamp on because like the 55 pound is already, you know what I mean? This is already like really thin. It's like thinner than like copy paper. So I don't know, maybe something around that 50, 55 pound kind of variety is still pretty good. It's stiff enough to work on. I've never had like this problem where it's like, oh my God, this is so flimsy. Plus, it also is thin enough to be to show in these types of applications the imagery that they're being applied over the top of too. So, yeah. The photo paper is hard to blend the colors. What colors would that be, Linda? And see, Linda's talking about that emulsion coating on here. It's set to grab and dry media real fast. So that's a really good point too. Unless someone's going for like some kind of impasto, Van Gogh style of media applications. Yeah, I can't blend things really well on top of photo paper. But now where I'm blending my colors like down here on this photo paper, it's not, like I said, and when I was coloring, I don't know, whatever this one with, okay. Like when I'm blending my colored pencils on this photograph down here, that it's stamped on, I'm not blending the colored pencils on the photo paper. I'm blending my colored pencils on that blocked out Brilliance ink, okay? So the Brilliance ink you can, blend on there just fine, okay? But wet media, too, on the tops of that emulsion paper, it's drying too fast, like dye-based inks or something like that. It's really difficult to blend. I can blend alcohol inks a little bit better on photo paper because it's very surface oriented. And if I add some alcohol inks into this area, it's just sitting on the surface. So if you don't like what you applied and you want to blend it around a little bit or something like that or whatnot, you can go in with your blender pen and just kind of manipulate that application of the alcohol ink sitting on the surface. Okay. Now I've done that, on some of my other, I did it on this one right here. So this was an example of the blending of alcohol inks on the top of this, but there's no way that I'd be able to blend dye-based inks on top of that paper because it would be grabbing it really fast. And, it would give you no time to kind of blend it around a little bit or, kind of make it merge with additional layers of dye-based inks like La Plume pens or Tombows or something like that. So I utilize, my alcohol inks for that area and that for that purpose right there. So, yeah. There is a printer-friendly vellum. That's interesting. Oh my God. So, it's like, I didn't know. Okay, so I didn't know that, Ginger, but can you imagine? Okay, so maybe you might be able to print, that's like a whole other thing too. So I was talking about like printing photos on different types of papers, but can you imagine you print things like this, these photographs like this on vellum, that might be, this whole other world too, because vellum you can color directly on top of vellum too. With colored pencils, vellum takes colored pencils great. So, you print out something like this, and if you want to give a little bit of a tinge of color in here or something like that, that might be really cool. But, my God. I don't know, the possibilities are, they're pretty wide open, which I never saw coming because this was my thoughts in terms of photo stamping for the longest of time because that's how people did it. Okay, now when Randall Curry came out with that type of thing and was doing it in the, like I said, in the 90s and whatnot, that's how, people, pretty much stamped on top of their photographs and that was it. And I thought that was really cool, but I I wanted to go for, different types of looks and stuff. So, dabbling around with a little bit of alcohol inks on it or something like that too was fun. But I don't know, just really kind of seen more potential in them recently with the different types of usages and media that's out there these days too. Specifically, the Brilliance thing, which has been around for 20 years, 20, I don't know, maybe 25 years. I know it's been around there for a long time, but I just didn't think to use it with that. So that's really opened up a lot of doors like that. So that'd be really cool. So if anyone has that, and I don't know, can post some different types of applications with, photo prints or whatever, using whatever, using the stuff that I've been doing, or if anyone discovers like different types of usages too, specifically like different types of papers that you can print your background photos on, that would be really, really cool to see. I know people are saying, well, you do it, Kevin, and we want to see, you do it first or whatnot. I don't have like, sometimes I don't have a lot of the, all these different types of papers too. I don't know if I have any like too many textured papers. Oh my God, too. So, speaking of that too, I was showing you that printable vinyl like that. That's printable vinyl. So you can print these types of things on this type of paper. Okay. This is a printable vinyl though. It's not like a holographic cardstock. Okay. Which I don't know if it would take the ink or not. Probably not coming out of your printer. But this, running through a printer might be pretty interesting. So, can you imagine something like this or this? Maybe that would be too insane. But I don't know. On the other hand, if you print out something like this, see, all that blue would be muting this super loud surface, and the things that are white on here would be the things that are kind of showing through. So I don't know. Linda has this paper too, so we're referring to it. We always see like referred to, I don't know, what'd you call this one, Linda? Like ice shards or something like that. I thought you had a name for this one, but I don't know. We got to try this stuff. Some cloud prints on printable vinyls out there. I haven't used my printable vinyls for anything coming out of the printer yet. I've just been stamping on it. So I don't know. It might be kind of interesting to do that type of thing in there. So yes, Annie likes the stays on vellum. Okay, no puckering issues. Perfect. Rhonda bought the matte paper because trying to use the glossy Stampscapes when I had my disaster. Don't be worried. Don't fear the glossy, Rhonda. So Rhonda had problems with Memento inks on top of glossy. Okay, so Memento inks, and I have a ton of them here. I love these inks and the different colors and whatnot. Aren't Mementos too non-fading too? I don't know how they're that, but they're said to be. But they're thicker. I don't know if they're. I think they're thicker than like Ranger inks, like the Distress inks. I think the Distress inks are a little bit thick too, but the Mementos to me texturally are a little bit creamier feeling. So that being said, they're a little bit of a thicker ink. So it would take a little bit, their viscosity is thicker. So they would have a longer time in terms of a drying time, but also, in evaporation time, but also a longer period to penetrate the surface and pulp of your whatever papers you're working with. So if you're working with matte, like a cardstock, it's going to absorb into that really fast, and you probably won't be able to tell any difference between like a Distress, Marvy, and Memento, or any of the other brands of inks out there. Okay, but the more kind of surface coating you have, the less and less porous you get with your different types of surfaces. That viscosity comes into play. So the thicker it is, just naturally, it's going to be, take longer to absorb and to penetrate. It's good for certain things, if you want to blend those mementos really well. Those things blend perfectly. I can go with a memento ink on a semi-gloss cardstock or maybe even a matte one and really blend it really smooth because it's so thick. But on the other hand, in terms of drying time, it's longer, which is the thing that makes it so easy to blend together. But on the other hand, you get that type of issue. So for me, I don't use one brand of inks usually. I use a couple different ones for their different characteristics, if I need to, with certain types of I don't know, maybe specialty surfaces, not services. Okay, let's see. There is a thinner variety of right. I'm sure when I use glossy cardstock, I use a glossy spray. I think you can use a matte spray on glossy cardstock. Yeah, you can. It might look at. So you can use a glossy cardstock on matte, or you can use a matte, spray on matte. If you spray glossy on matte, it'll probably make it look a little bit more satiny. You got to really give a pretty thick coating of spray sealant over the top of matte to make it look glossy. You might have to give it a few coats. But one of the things is when I've used like a matte spray on glossy cardstock, it's moved it more in that satiny type of finish, or direction. You get the benefit of the saturation and contrasts when spraying with anything on certain types of surface. Not with, this video is about, photo stamping on photo, paper here, but on other types of things. This one right here, this is a semi-gloss right down here. But if I spray this down here, my branches and my sand area would get a little bit darker and a little bit more defined, which I'll probably do on this one because this is so, crazy shiny and glossy. I'll probably spray this down here, but I would probably block this whole area off and just spray this part like that. Okay. But just know, it'll change the characteristics of your pieces a little bit depending on what you spray. It also depends a little bit on kind of how much you spray on these things too. If you just give a real light spray of anything, it's not really going to, have too much of a difference between the glossy and the matte spray. The matte sprays that I use are I don't have any matte spray sealant, like a UV matte spray or something like that, but I do have workable fixative, which, in a sense is a spray, but it's just more of a very raw one, that's meant to lock everything down so that you can utilize more media over the top of it, without spreading around or smearing what you've already laid down, like graphites and pastels and things like that. Anyways, we're getting off we're getting off onto all kinds of other things right here, which is a good discussion. I love talking anything stamping and media and everything like that. But that is it with the photo stamping. I hope that that has given kind of a decent type of background or foundation by which to start your photo stamping in. One of the biggest things though was one of the things that I covered first, and that's just, people are not used to utilizing a lot of times multi-tone patterned backgrounds to stamp on, because they might be just coming over from doing everything so far that they've done, or the majority on, let's say, white cardstock or something like that, just blank backgrounds, okay, or something like that. So this is one of the biggest points of, the utilization of backgrounds. So, it applies to, sky photos too, but just any type of patterned background like that, so you just have to do some blocking out for open styles of images to stand out. If you don't want all those clouds down in those, windowy areas of those types of images, then you just have to do something in the background. So, other people can, cut out something like this if they want to, but you know, I like doing the blocking out with the white pigment. But solid imagery, you can do whatever you want over the top of your backgrounds, silhouettes and whatnot. You know, whatever type of thing you want on there. But just utilize the right type of media that's going to adhere and dry on your surfaces, whatever you choose to utilize for your photo prints. Okay, anyway, everyone, hope you had a fun time. I know this is really some basic stuff here on photos, but thanks for joining in. See you in the next live. All right, folks, I hope you have a great rest of evening or rest of day, whatever time it is for you. Thanks as always for tuning into the channel, and hope to see you in the next live stream. I don't know what it'll be. Maybe it'll be some, maybe it'll be finishing off one of these pieces or something like this. This one's almost ready to go. Just a few trees like this, and I don't know, maybe a quote stamp up here or something like that. And this one's done, but colored pencils right over the top of that brilliance ink in there is really fun. So easy to do too, you know what I mean? And it's nice having that type of background already established. So drop me a note if you have any questions on, you know, anything that we've covered in here that I might not have brought up, or that you just missed, you know, and you don't want to watch a, you know, a 2-hour video or something like that to get the answer. Just drop me a note and I'll answer it right away. Thanks, everyone.